What's up, family? Welcome to Sacred Conversations. This is episode, what? Are we on number 4 already? Coming in consistent. We missed last week, but coming back in this week for y'all with episode number 4. And tonight we're going to be talking about eclipses of evolution, grieving the growth. So, what does it look like to grieve as you evolve? And the other side of the story, like, yes, growth and evolution and stepping into new versions of ourselves and shedding old layers and transforming and becoming versions of ourselves that we want to be and we desire to be is a beautiful thing, and it's a beautiful process, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. But also on the other side of that, there's grief that has to be held, because for every moment that we step forward into something new is a moment that we let go of something that we once held dear. And so tonight I get to bring on one of my dear friends, Soko, who is so brilliant in the that she feels and the way that she experiences life. She's so intelligent. So many just beautiful, profound things about her.
Hi,
Hi.
Destiny. I'm happy to be
Oh.
here with you.
Yes, yes, glasses, yes, hair, yes, face, yes, life, yes, everything. Oh,
Hey,
wow.
Boo. Hey, Boo.
Hi, I'm so excited. I was just telling everybody how incredible you are and what a gift it is to just be in communion with you and to have had the opportunities to connect with you every single time. It's deep and it's of depth and it's reflective and it's healing and it's powerful. And I come out better and I come out like more evolved and just more the version of me that I desire to be. And
Yeah,
so thank you for that. Thank you for always being that for me
thank you.
in this relationship.
Thank you
Yeah.
for having me here.
Oh, let's see. I think we froze. I just take it off Wi-Fi. Let's see what happens. Let me know. Let me know if I'm frozen as well, and then we'll see. We'll go from there. Okay, wait. Let's see. Let's try it again. We'll get it. We'll get it. Sometimes
Okay, I'm
Instagram be doing
here. I don't see
Instagram's own thing.
Destiny.
And so, okay,
Okay,
we're
are we back?
back. We're back. Yes.
Okay, there seems to be glitches, but that's okay. We're
That's
rolling.
okay. Yes.
That's okay. Destiny, what I was saying is I was thinking about our first encounter, like face to face. And I remember I already knew it was going to be great
When was
because
this? Okay, give me a little bit. What was our first?
you came to the Nile Bar on Market Street. Uh,
Oh.
that was like May or June of 2022 is when we first met in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had been following you, you've been following me, and I'm like, hold up now. It seems like I knew where you were headed because I felt I was headed there too. And I tell you this all the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're like 2 to 3 months ahead of me. Everything you experience, I'm like, I'm coming up on it. So it's
Yes.
nice to have that witness and
Yeah.
also that lead. So I'm real
Mm.
grateful for you too.
Oh. Oh, so much love in so many ways. So today we're going to be talking about that essentially, what that looks like, that journey of coming into self and that journey of shedding and transforming and evolving and what that looks like, but more specifically focusing on the grief that comes with growth. The grief that is also a part of the process, and so I want to give you an opportunity to just introduce yourself, let the people know who you are, what you do, and then we're going to dive in. But I want to give you that space first before we get to that part.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
So my name is Socorro Reynoso. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, a licensed psychotherapist in the state of California. I own a private practice in Inglewood, California called Soco Ray Therapy. My specialty as a psychotherapist is I like to use non-traditional tools, ancient tools, indigenous tools to help people master self-discovery, because my whole thing is that like I've been on a quest for wholeness, raised Catholic, then switched over to Black non-denominational churches, and there was always this like got to be whole, but there was not really like the guidebook didn't match up. I was doing everything that they said to do and I didn't feel whole. So
Mm,
I ditched that and I instead decided to embrace my light and my dark sides and everything that composed both sides. So I
mm,
like to have people kind of create like a map of who they are and then start breaking it down and finding ways to love, nurture, or yeah, love and nurture the different parts of themselves. So that's what I do. That's what I like to do.
mm.
Astrology is my main tool, and human.
Oh, that's beautiful. And human design. So for those of y'all that don't know, human design is an exceptional tool, especially in the early stages of stepping into self-discovery and being able to have a blueprint essentially is what human design comes in as, and a reference for you to have language for a lot of what you'll already be able to understand as a part of your lived experience. And when you can have linguistics and language and pair that with your lived human experience, it just makes it a lot easier to like digest what is happening and filter through all the muck. So if you haven't tapped into human design, do your research, Google it, tap into it, and kind of just start poking into it. It'll seem complicated at first and it might not make sense, but just keep revisiting it, keep going back to it.
Mhm.
Um, I first came across human design in 2019. And the first time I came across it, I was like, well, what is this? Like, this,
Too
it made
much.
no sense. It was too much. I needed a little bit more experience, clearly. And revisited again in 2021. And I was like, oh, understood. And it changed the game for me completely. And now, like, I worked for like a really long time to like embody. I'm a projector. What's your human design?
I'm a manifesting generator, and you're clearly a projector. Y'all saw how she's able to put words together. It's like you just take ideas and they're
Oh,
perfectly said. Everything you do is like perfectly described. Like, how does she know how to say that? Because she's a projector.
because I'm a projector. Yeah. So definitely thank you. Not thank you. I got an email that said thank you that popped up. So I said thank you. Stumbling over my words. But yeah, definitely check that out as a tool for you as you continue to move forward. But what I do want to do, oh, I'll give a brief intro. So for those that don't know who I am, and are catching this live or catching the replay, my name is Destiny Muse. I'm a lot of things. It's really hard to put me into a box, but I have just started to really embody the fact that I'm a multifaceted creative. Everything that I do stems from my love of art and creation, creativity. At the end of the day, I'm a creator. And by stepping into my creative essence, that's how I feel the closest to God. And so I stay in that space and in that realm and everything that I do. And I just allow myself to express in like whatever avenue, whatever like medium that myself is like wanting to express in every season of my life, but it's always changing. I'm also an entrepreneur and a business owner, focusing primarily on ending the starving artist narrative and era in communities that are like communities that I come from, and really being able to create collaboration amongst artists that are creating healing works so that we can come together in the form of a co-op and help to uplift each other together collectively by using innovative methods and tools within the business realm to bring in more revenue for ourselves. And so that's like my primary focus of where I like occupy my professional space. And so that's a little bit about me, and getting to this place required a lot of letting go and a whole lot of grief. And so that's the part that we're going to dive in now, is what did it cost?
Mm.
What does this journey cost? And so that's the first question that I want to lead with on your journey, and to get to this space of beingness. What has it cost? What has been the cost?
What has been the cost? This is a question for me to
It's a
answer.
question for you to answer.
It costs you relationships.
Mm.
Perhaps not a total ending, but a shift that's very uncomfortable. It's cost me money. um, it's cost, loss of
Mm,
reputation.
mm,
Um, but there's a lot under that too, though. It's like there much of our reputation is a facade we've created to seek approval. So it's releasing that and finding ways to approve of yourself. What are some more
mm,
costs? Health,
mm,
the impact of moving through new spaces and out of old ones. You know, it takes a toll on the body to
mm.
go through change. Um, those are the first things that are coming to me. Those are
Those
like the
are
those are the
good.
descriptive words, okay?
Yeah, those are good.
What
Yeah, I would
what
say a big loss would be um my identity.
ooh,
I feel like that was the one that just fucked me up. Is when I realized that every part of what I believed to be true about who I was actually a projection of everybody around me and not my authentic expression of self. So I had to lose a version of myself that I had created based on who I thought I was supposed to be in order to become who I wanted to be. And so losing self
yeah,
was probably the most challenging loss in all of it. And then I definitely resonate with all of the other ones that you shared as well.
losing a self is quite unnerving and destabilizing. It's for some, you know, some processes are slow, some processes are
Mm.
fast. I think the fast are more disruptive they can be. Yeah. Uh, what else do I want to say? I had another thought, but my DMs are also dropping down. That's a distraction. I'm sorry, y'all. I
Right.
lost my train. Oh no, this is what I want to say. I want to go a little bit back. I want to bridge something. What we're
Yes.
the concept of identity and us mentioning human design. What
Mm.
and astrology. I those things give us the blueprint, and society gives us their blueprint, which isn't our own. And in essence, this is the way I conceptualize the world and disorder and order. I believe that if we all play our part, our true, authentic part, the way you were designed to be, what you were
Mm.
designed to do, what you were designed to offer. If some of us are accelerators, some of us are disruptors, some of us are provocative, some of us shake shit up, and we are seen as bad or angry or whatever, untamed. But in fact, our job is to propel change, and you need pain to
Yes.
you can't be this like non-conflictual everything's fine, everybody likes me type of being and be authentic. It doesn't exist. And I think that it's a part of why we become out of order. So I want to say hats off to you, Destiny, for choosing authenticity, because that's actually what we need to shift
Mm.
into and away from. You know, everyone's like um, we think that the changes need to be made at the higher levels, government, and all of that. But like that's key, that continues to fail us. It really starts bottom to
Yeah.
top. And yeah, and so I think that that is why, to me, authenticity and losing the identity, it costs you fake
Yeah.
relationships, but the gain, and I know we'll get there, what
Yeah.
you get is like more peace, and like the world has more equilibrium when you are who you
Yeah.
are. I think
And we can go there. We can go there now. What have been the gains? So we know what some of the losses have been, and we'll get more into them in a sec. But on the opposite end of that, what has been the gains on the other
I'll
side?
say that the shedding process is scary. It can last longer than you want it to.
Yeah.
Um, and there's this want to hold on. And so, like, there's a part of walking into the new that's like holding on to the past and grabbing onto the front to the future. And you're like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And there's this sense when you get deep enough into the work and that movement in your body that says we have to do this, you there's no other option. You know what you feel in your body, like I can't go
Yeah.
back. I can't. I have to go forward. So the one gain on the other side is what you thought was a loss is actually freedom. And who is it? Toni Morrison. If you want to fly, you got to give up the shit that weighs you down.
Oh, I've never heard that.
I believe it's.
I love that.
I hope it's Toni Morrison. Yeah, I'm seeing her face. Um, that quote
I
resonates. It's
love
true. And the
Love
truth is,
that.
the problem is we don't exactly know what's weighing us down until we take inventory
Yep.
of our life and get real with who we are. For me, it helped to be away from home to see who I was. Who am I when I'm without these projections, right? Who do I choose to be? Girl, I still would. Los Angeles isn't as welcoming, but one thing that pleases me is I like putting in my clear contacts, a wig, some sequins, getting on a
Yes.
bike, and being like, this is how I like to feel sometimes. So the other
Yes.
side is also this like side of you that the only way I can really describe it is like I'm kind of like I've become a bit of an emo kid or like a rebel. Like in my childhood, I was conforming. I was perfect. I did everything right and well. And now I'm leaning into like, oh, those kids, what we thought was bad that they were expressing their emotions.
Yeah.
That's really healthy. That's so healthy for them to be on the outside what was happening in the inside and not faking the funk.
Yes.
So that's also a gain is you get to just step into this like kind of you get to be on the fringes, but by
By
choice.
choice.
I want to be out here. Oh y'all are followers. I actually don't want to be a part of that
Yeah.
pack anymore. I want to be here now with the freaks. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The real ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I would I got to a point when I realized I like looked around at like all of my connections. So that was a really big gain. True relationship, healthy relationship, people that reflected in me the qualities that I had. So by making that shift, I'm now surrounded by so many beautiful people. And I remember having a day where I was like, oh my God, we're finally the cool kids. Like the weirdos have finally become the cool kids. And so, like, being in that space of being able to embody who I am, and in a similar sentiment to your own, I've been more recently leaning into and embracing the part of me that was always afraid to be like confident or quote unquote cocky. Um, Being in a space where I felt like I always had to be humble because I didn't want to like offend or harm anybody else. And then there's been this also like really fun energy. It feels like vindication. And so it's coming in the sense of like when you've had a group of people or a culture or an idea or a belief suppress you for so long and point the finger and tell you you're wrong, there's something wrong with you, you're the problem, you're broken, and then you come to like realization of, okay, no, I wasn't perfect, but I also was not as big of a problem as you guys made me to believe that I was. And then you figure that out and you start to embody yourself. There is this energy of like, it almost feels like payback, but it's not payback in the sense of I wish harm on you or I wish bad on you, but in a sense of eat your words, eat them, eat them, and watch me just below. Watch me be everything that you said that I wasn't. Watch me stand in my light. Watch me be the version of me that I always showed up as. Always even more loud, even more in your face, even more bold, and watch the world accept me while you sit on the wayside and you're gonna see. You're going to see.
Yeah.
You won't be able to not see it. And so I've been letting myself sit in that and be with that energy. And there was so much shame associated to being in that version of myself, embodying that, as you were mentioning earlier, the wholeness of me,
Yeah.
and recognizing that no, that energy is there. It's there. I posted a post that said something like, I don't remember what the actual post said, but my response to it was, they'll call me petty, but I'll call me rich.
And yeah, and you really stop caring about what it's like you have that. I'm so centered on my life. And I think that's what grief does too, right? It centers you, it brings you closer to yourself. It
Yeah.
and with yourself. You have to be with you. And that strengthens the core of you. And I think it also strengthens that one gain is like the nervous system becomes more regulated. Because I think
Yeah.
I realized was that my nervous system was actually dysregulated because I was having to keep up with being someone who I wasn't. Every day felt, hey, Jess, that's right. Every day felt like work. And then
Yeah.
when you step into your authenticity, it's like, oh, I don't have to do anything outside of what my intuition guides me, where I flow into, right? Yeah. And with that, and you know what? To have a regulated nervous system is, I swear to God, I'll take that over anything at this point in the game.
Yeah.
And there is about, I understand that sentiment of vindication, like that want to be like, And I see it, I kind of like translate it as, I think our goal here is to, whatever word you want to use, but like emanate the light of source. And
Yeah.
source does want us to stand in our authenticity. Source is pushing us toward our authenticity at all times. So it makes sense that we want to represent our what we're here to do, right? Like, and
Yeah.
as a source of inspiration, not copy inspiration, not I know better than you, but like,
No.
but here I am
Yeah.
standing in my fullness, and I hope that whoever witnesses this and also is called to stand in their fullness, that I am an aid to them,
Yeah.
right? A point in the right direction. Yes.
Yeah.
And you know what? You've been exactly that for me, Destiny. Right? I'm watching it, and
Yeah.
I'm not jealous. I'm more like, ooh, that looks good. I want more of that. So
Yeah.
I think you're already operating in that, and it is
Mm.
nice for haters to hate.
Hey,
Sometimes.
sometimes it feels a little good. It's kind of like, okay. And so like when getting to this space of like you're saying, mentioning like this full acceptance of all parts of me. And so the journey of grieving, it's like I got to a point where I had grieved so much. It was like back to back. And my journey was like hardcore for like 3 years, like like clawing for my life for like a 3 year period. And I just kept clawing. I kept releasing. I kept letting go. I walked away from a marriage. I walked away from a business that meant everything to me. I then ended up in another relationship that was very harmful that I also had to walk away from. I walked away from religion. I walked away from family. I walked away from major parts of my identity all in a 3 year period. And there came a point in my journey and in my grief where I had fought, because the beginning stages is a fight. It's a fight. And so I fought and I fought and I fought and I fought and I fought. And then I got to a point where I was like, I'm done fighting.
Surrender.
I'm done. I'm done fighting
Yeah.
myself. I'm done fighting everybody around me. I'm done fighting the narrative. I'm done fighting the perceptions. I'm done fighting. And that is when I really and truly found
Yes.
peace. And I realized that I had been fighting all my life. That goal, all my life, I've had to fight.
Yeah.
And to realize that my brother, he said it so beautifully in a conversation we were having. He was like, yeah, he said, we didn't grow up with peace or comfort. And to know that I never had peace or comfort until I'm what now 32. This is I barely now really understand what that means.
There's that.
There's
We have
grief there.
we grieve what we didn't have, right? When we realize it, it's like, that's a whole process. That could take a year to really be with the sadness was
Yeah.
repressed for all that time, right? And when you open up and make space for those emotions, that's what allows the shifts. That's what allows you to know, like, oh shit, I need to make this shift. And you said, I can't remember what you said earlier, but what it sounded like is that this is what happened for me, and it sounded like the same for you. Through our grief process, because you're turning into yourself, you start to really like take inventory and assess your relationships, dynamics.
Oof.
And there's so much learning in there. It's hard to face the truth of what your relationships are.
Yeah.
But there's power too, because then you know how to operate in them and to shift them. But yeah. Grief all tied up into it. And
the whole time.
I don't like that it was 3 years for you,
I
but I
know.
liked it that you have that example to offer, because when, you know, something about this process, I think that many of us are in at this stage is that it's arduous. It's not, pain isn't like it used to be. And maybe I'm just more open to my human experience, or maybe the world is changing, but I feel like pre-2020, depressive episodes were 2 weeks long, you know, like Go to the gym, eat
Girl,
good food, call your friend,
yeah.
go for a walk. It's like, okay, we back. And I feel like we have been shaken alive or awakened to the reality that pain lasts longer now.
Yeah.
We're built a little stronger than we thought. It
Yeah.
is a bit of survival of the fittest going on too
Mm-hmm.
right now.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone's making
Yeah.
it. The stress is killing them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And it's so unfortunate. It's so sad. Like there's more of that grief. It's so sad. Um, because a lot of this is not our faults. We were injected into a system and a way of being that by its very nature is harmful. And so we carry all these things that we did not subject ourselves to. We were born into them. And then we are then responsible for having to shift that narrative a lot of times on our own. My journey was also a very solo journey. I went through that 3 year period. There was no one. No one. It was like, oh shoot, I am the first. I was a first. I was the first in my family. I was the first in my friend groups. I was the first in the community that I knew. So I had to go without any. That's why it took me so long. Because I had to go without any guidance. I had to figure it out for
yeah.
myself. I had to do my own research. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have somebody to walk me through the process. I didn't have a community I can trust because I moved from religion, my church community. That was my community. And so now I'm outside of my community, unable to find another community that truly resonates because a lot of what we're in now, we're barely the leaders of it, right? The ones who have been going through the process, who have been like healing ourselves and walking the path. We're barely getting to the other side of
Yeah.
it. And so we haven't really formed those community spaces yet. We're beginning to, but when I was going through it, there was not community spaces that felt safe, that represented what I now represent.
Yeah.
And so now what it feels like is we're all gravitating towards each other. The clans are linking up in very powerful ways. And so for those that are going to be walking the journey that are coming up after us, it won't be as hard. It won't last as long because they'll have more support. There'll be more resources, more tools. But to walk through that journey is difficult.
It is very difficult. It is. And I do hope that more have more community through the process.
Yeah.
And I also think though, I have one good girlfriend. She'll be 45. She just turned 45 actually. So she's 5 years ahead of me. And she prepared me for this because she's journeyed here. And she shared with me
Mm,
that there was actually a period that she believes she was required to be alone. It was
yeah.
where she really had to be like, I have to be able to stand on my own 2 feet, where even family turns away.
Yeah.
And something about, I don't wish that on myself or anyone, but when it happens, it strengthens you to a level that you didn't know you could be strengthened. Like I literally at this point feel like you can throw anything at me. I'm a motherfucking
Yeah.
warrior. Yeah.
Exactly.
Modern day, I don't have a horse or a shield, but god damn it, if this was the 500 years ago, I would. Me and you'd
Yep.
be riding
That oh
up front.
girl,
You know what I mean?
girl, yep. I lost everything that I had deemed as important. Pretty much. It was all gone. Evaporated.
All of it. Yeah.
All of it. And I don't even want to say I lost it. I let it go. I went on an intentional journey
Yes.
where these are choices that I made. I wasn't forced to do this. I could have stayed in the cycle, but the pain of remaining the same, the grief that came with remaining in environments and
That's right.
spaces that were so harmful to me was far worse than the hope that I had that there was something else. I didn't even know what I was walking to. I just knew that the pain that I was carrying then, that there had to be more.
Yeah.
That this could not just be the end of my reality and I'm just supposed to settle with this and be okay with this and just live my life miserable
Right.
because.
No.
And so that pain hurt enough. You're already hurting. If you're in a space of suffering, if you're in a place of hiding, if you're in a place of inauthenticity, whether you admit it to yourself or not, you're already
You
hurting.
are. You are. And you know, I was watching yesterday this trauma specialist, two of them. Hold on, I wrote their names down. David Kessler and Alex Howard, and they mentioned this notion of how the baby. No one tells the baby it's time to walk. No one tells you to crawl.
Mm.
That we have, as humans, we're wired and designed to have this natural urge to lean in the direction of growth, right? And I think that that's what you're explaining is like, it was intuitively impossible for you to not let go. You
Yeah.
knew that this pain, that there was another side or way out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I, because I wonder sometimes, I'm like, why everybody else ain't on this fucking healing journey? Like, when y'all coming? It's like, well, maybe, it's not everyone's
It's
time either. That's not how
not.
things
And
work.
it's just not. And I realized so where I started to like offer a lot of grace, and it took me a while to get to that point. Um, and it teeters and it teeters. Sometimes the grace is there, and sometimes I'm like, get your shit together. There's too many tools, too many resources. And then I go back to grace, and
Uh-huh.
I'm like, okay, I can offer you grace because I understand. But where I find myself is that I had to be honest about my privilege, as much and as like painful as my journey was. And it was my journey, so it's not in like an attempt to compare pain at any sense, because my journey was hard. My journey was so hard for me. It was incredibly difficult for me to crawl out, but there are certain fundamental things that I had. I didn't have to worry about a roof over my head. I didn't have to worry about food in my stomach. I wasn't in a space with where there are people that I've come across and been in intimate relationship with where they came from like a depth of abuse that I did not have to
Mm-hmm.
experience. And so when I think about how hard it was for me to crawl out of my experience. And then I also think about my level of intellect that also isn't naturally common amongst all people. That's a gift.
Yeah.
I have a gift of intellect. That's not something that's accessible to everybody. Then I think about the fact that I was able to go get a college education. I studied psychology. I was able to go
Mhm.
to school and get the degree. Um, I had to really take note of my privilege during my healing journey to realize that, like, yeah, some people won't ever be able to do it. And not because they don't want to, not because they're not fighting like hell to do it, but
Yeah.
because they don't have the tools or the resources. We talked about it when I was at your house, where it's like it's expensive to heal.
Yes, it is. It is quite expensive. I mean, luckily we have the internet now, but to do the deep intensive work, it is very, very expensive. Yeah. Yeah. There is privilege in that. And I think that so something that I did not think about when I was going through the throes of things, and today I was like, maybe I should, why did the stages of grief. I didn't think about that. And so what I want to share with the people who are listening is if you are grieving and experiencing anger or feeling mad that you're the only one doing the work
Yeah.
and no one else is, also like that's a normal part. And I don't want, I try to push myself into compassion because I want my heart to be clean and pure. But the truth is, you can't rush that process.
Oh my
You
gosh,
have
not at
to
all.
allow the anger because that has to be released. It's a block, it's got to
Yeah.
go so
Yeah.
you can get to the root, the core. So it's normal to be angry and upset, and it's your ego is going to be operating in overdrive during this process
Oh
because
yeah.
it's like, no, no, no,
Yeah.
no, no, everyone's gonna hate God, I've been working this hard for you this time, and now you're gonna give this up, right? The ego is like going down swinging,
Yeah.
and it will eventually.
Fighting. Yes.
Eventually, the ego will be like, "All right,
Fine.
fine. I just don't even have any more fight. You wear
Fight.
the ego out.
You
Yeah,
wear it out, yeah. But that's so real, your point about anger, because anger, me giving myself permission to be angry was actually a major key to
yep,
me being able to ascend to the next level. um Growing up the way that I grew up, anger was suppressed. You weren't allowed to be angry. Don't slam my door, don't
yeah,
walk away like that, don't raise your voice, don't be angry, don't express the anger, natural anger for experiences and situations, that the appropriate response is anger, and it being suppressed, and then me feeling bad for being angry. So I teetered on the opposite end of like over compassion where it turned into excuses for people's poor behavior, and it turned into like just allowing things to happen because I just had so much empathy, so much compassion, and I wasn't able to allow myself to get angry. But what anger did for me during the grief process, I was listening to like who was on my list at that time? Um what is her name? Megan the Stallion.
Okay,
But
okay.
bumping because her music, it really talks on like being harmed and being like, no, like that shit is not okay. And so I allowed myself to go into the anger, and what that did for me once I really allowed myself to go there is
Mhm.
it unlocked a protection, like a self protection within me, where like my bully came out, like the one that like my guard came out of like, no, we're done with that. We are crossing the line. We no more, not letting that
Yes.
happen. There's a line to a song where it says like that I would listen to over and over again as well, where she's, I can't think of her name right now, Ayana or something like that. And she says, something along the lines of like, I let myself feel it so that I promise myself I won't go back there again. Because I don't like
Mhm.
being angry. It wasn't a fun feeling. I don't like it. And
No.
so I'm like feeling it and allowing myself to truly feel it, to be in it, to experience it. I'm like, I don't even want to go there
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. It allows you to see what's hurting you. Yes. And to become that good mom. Like, oh no, honey, remember little Tommy, he pulled your pigtails last weekend. That's a no-no,
That's a
right? It's like,
no
that's
no.
a no-no. Yeah, you get to step in and you start to feel just like you're worthy of protection and like, oh my gosh, I'm valuable. And yes, it changes the game. It's what we've always wanted is for
Yeah.
someone to step in and protect. And then we do it for
Yeah.
ourselves, and only we do it the
Yeah.
best. You do it the best. No one can do it better for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really a divine process and also quite painful.
Yeah,
Quite
it's so
painful.
hard to like, because when you love and you love deeply and you care deeply, it's like you have to come face to face with a version of yourself um that is, it almost feels like, for me at least in my experience, what it felt like, the grief was so heavy because it felt like I had to become, it didn't turn out to be the truth, but the illusion that I had to break past was that I had to essentially become what harmed me. So I felt like in me getting angry or in me like walking away from a relationship, I felt like I was becoming the person who abandoned me. I was becoming um, my mother, who I felt was just angry with me all the time. I was becoming the things that harmed me, is what the illusion told me. And so it was so painful. But what I realized on the other end of that, but I had to get past that part first. What I realized on the other side of that was that I'm not that. So I was never about me becoming that, because I'm not that.
Right.
And so it was me recognizing my inherent like just worth and value, and that part of me that is inside that is pure. I'm
Mhm.
pure. There's a purity that I hold within myself, and I don't know that that stretches across every person, every being, but what I can say for me in my own experience is that I'm pure. I'm a pure soul, but I had to go through that threshold of feeling like I was everything that I hated, essentially,
Yeah.
before I came back face to face with myself. And I said, no, babe, you're pure.
That's right. That's right. I mean, in essence, you carried yourself through ugliness like only God could. Or, you and God is within us, right? You really showed up for yourself in that way. And there's something really powerful about being able to stand compassionately by your own side
Yeah.
when you're being as ugly as the ugliest person's been to you,
That,
and saying, baby, and this too is okay.
yeah.
And even this too we need.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. And
Yes.
then getting also to a space of like, oh, I am capable of the most wickedest of wicked things. I can tear down a human with my words in microseconds and have them completely questioning their life and wanting to bury themselves in a hole. But I choose not to.
Yeah.
I make that conscious decision. And so it also humbles me. That's what keeps me in a space, humble to God, not to man, humble to God, but that keeps me in a space to say that, like, I could be that. I am that, but I choose not to be that. I'm
Yep.
all of it. I'm the whole experience. And I consciously choose to show up in a space of love,
Yeah.
even when it's hard, even when it's difficult. That's the space that I choose to occupy. And so it gives me just so much like fortified strength
Yeah.
of like, who can tell me anything?
Well, because in essence, you're like proud, not proud might not be the word, but you're content with who you are and how you show up. Yeah. When that's there, what can rock
Yeah,
you? That
yeah,
sureness, that certainty that only comes from within and
yeah,
through these difficult processes. Yeah.
yeah.
So where else shall we go? I have notes. You want me to look
Oh,
at them? They're all
please.
poster board.
Oh, I know they're
Oh,
so good.
I already know. I already know
Okay,
where I want to go. I already
okay.
saw it.
And thank you for rolling and rocking with this conversation with me in such a fluid
Absolutely.
way. Yeah, this has
Absolutely.
been amazing. Yeah.
um, I'm so I follow an astrologer. Her name is Pam Gregory. She's, to me, she's the most wise astrologist I've come across. And broke my pen. She's very much interested right now in helping us reconceptualize grief and what's happening right now. And it's feeling like loss. It is feeling like that. And it is, in a sense. But like we know, we have to let go to receive. We have to let go in order to walk into the newness. And something that she's talking about and has been for years is this shift that we're undergoing, and the cosmos are supporting that. You know, the last time the stars were aligned this way, there were major events,
Okay.
major life-changing events, world consciousness changing
Mm,
events.
mm,
And so she talks a lot about the shift from the 3D to the 5D, where right now we're centered on the material, right? Like I can hold it, then it's real. I have it, it makes me feel good. When I have it in my hand, I feel okay. Everything's okay. And these past few years, we've all been stripped away from the
yeah.
things that we thought we needed to be secure and fine. And a lot of us are still kicking and screaming. And I want to like encourage those to try to see that what's happening is that we're having to move into a new realm of existence
Yeah.
where we have to use our emotions now. We have to be in tune with energy now. It's less about what we have in the material world and more about what we can meet and do energetically.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a necessary shift that we're like, if you don't lose things or let go of things right now, and if you're not undergoing a grieving process, that's okay. But I encourage you to think about things that you could let go of, or maybe what is holding you back and down, because we know what's going on in the world right now, and it's horrendous. There's no excuse. We
Yeah.
all feel a bit powerless, but we have to remember that. And I don't mean to be like hokey and like just pray and it'll make everything okay. I know that more action is required, but I also understand energetics, and I understand that in the way she explains it so beautiful. I have chills right now. That if we all do this work,
Yeah.
when we all do this work, we're shifting the energy that is covering our
Yeah.
globe. And when you have those, if I shift my energy this much, Destiny, and you shift your energy, and everyone shifts their energy collectively, that's monumental.
Yeah.
And we need that. We need grief. We need to experience this because it tunes us into the love, the deep love we have for ourselves. And the work I'm doing is so much of my ego is gone. I'm so glad. And if I'm not saying I'm the best, but I'm saying like if more were doing ego work, we wouldn't have these issues. We would shift. And so I think that grief is
Yes.
purposeful. It's necessary. We're all being called to do it now. Lean in. Systems depend on it.
Yeah.
Babies depend on it. Humans depend on it. We depend on it. It's important to do this work.
Yeah.
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 want to just make sure, like, drive that home. Like, we are
Mm,
responsible
yeah.
to shift this energy, use it, shift by shifting our own energy, by allowing our true energy to emerge, to not be stuck, by allowing true emotions to be expressed. So we see
Yeah.
how we need to shift and
Yeah.
navigate. Yeah, giving space
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think a really big part of that is accountability, self accountability, really being in the age of being accountable and holding people accountable, because that's how we shift that. And it's painful to be accountable. There's grief that comes with being able to see and recognize where you fell short, and then also to hear from someone outside of you how you fell short. There's pain in that, but as you mentioned, it's so purposeful. And if we just continue to collectively push forward into that and connect with those who you see who have already walk the journey and maybe a little bit further than you.
yeah,
Ask questions, tap in, utilize your resources, and like do. No one can do it for you.
that's right.
Like no one can do it for you. No one can make the choice for you. You are the only one that has the insight, the full experience, insight necessary to really transform your life and to truly evolve and shed all the layers so that you can be the version of yourself that you desire to be, the version of yourself that you want to be.
Yes.
But there are tools, there are resources, there's so much that you can tap into to make the journey easier, but the journey is going to be difficult. So if you're in the thick of it and you're like, why is this so difficult? Why has it been so difficult for so long? Just keep assessing, just
Yeah.
keep looking, keep like asking yourself the tough questions, keep diving deeper and deeper into every layer. You'll get through one layer and then you'll be like, oh, I can breathe. And then you're like, oh my God, wait, there's another layer. And then you'll go to there and then you're like, oh,
It's
look,
like, wait, okay, is
whew,
my dark night of the soul over yet? And then you think you're out, and it's like, oh,
round
round two, here we go.
two. Then there's this phase where you think you got it all figured out. That was the worst one for me. Where you think you got it all figured out. That's like one of the it's nearing towards the like the breath of fresh air part, when you get to that part where you're all high and mighty and you think you have all of the solutions and all of the answers. The crash after that one is quite
Yeah,
horrific.
yeah.
That one sucks really bad. That one's
Taylor,
terrible.
Taylor can
Yeah.
relate. Yes,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, you think you're over, you think you're done, you're in the clear, and it's like, nope, we're not done yet. And I think part of what I'm grieving too is this idea that I would be done and I would arrive somewhere too, just period. And I had this notion in my mind before COVID and all this huge growth that I've been undergoing, and I have it still, that
Yeah.
at some point I arrive and everything becomes easy, and I'm having to let go of that. I know I'm not the only one letting go of that. It's like, oh, this is like a
Girl.
thing, huh?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I have a like because I went through that same part, that same process, that same like back and forth. It was always like, no, this is a journey. It's a journey that I'll be on forever. I started to reject that narrative. I started to tell myself, no, I reject it. There is a reality. There is a place where it does get easier. There is a version of reality where it is just peace and I don't end up back. There's a journey where I can experience pain from a space of wholeness and
Yes.
acceptance and like deep love and understanding. And I now occupy this space where I look back and I even look back at even like the last, it's been a minute where even in my grief, I just started looking at it different.
Yeah.
Even in my grief, it wasn't necessarily about like the hard parts, the hard things going away or never happening again, but like fortifying like the peace and the resilience and the strength and the wisdom and the knowing. I believe it's the knowing that everything is working out for
That's
my
right.
greatest good.
That's
And
right.
so once that became a full body experience, I felt like I did arrive to that place that I thought I would arrive to. It just
Mm,
didn't look like what I thought it would look like.
yes.
But
Yes.
that the cycle did end, that I did get off of that like loop de of trapness that I was stuck in, that
Yeah.
I was able to like see things different. And so I'm like still in this space of like, does it end? Does it end? Does it get hard again? But I've been occupying this space of like ease and peace for a really long time. And so I'm like, maybe now in this season, I've just been challenging myself to say, like, peace can last. Like, good things can last, relationships can last. And so, if I'm creating an environment where I have boundaries, where I'm communicating my needs, where I'm not settling, when I'm walking away before things get too bad, then why can't I have a life that's easy? And so now I'm kind of occupying that space and being in that, but it is definitely still something that's like I'm still rewiring in
Yeah.
my brain. But I do think that there is a place that like we finally get to breathe.
I think we get better at surrender. I do.
Yeah.
I think, and I hope that I want you to know, I hope that you remain in this peaceful state for the rest of your life.
Me
Yeah,
too.
I do for you. I want it for you. And I think, but I won't say but. I'll say I'm thinking of like elders I know who have accomplished bliss, have reached a transcendental state, and even they, their mother dies, and then their world feels like it's over, right? Like I
Yeah.
think we're called back, like you said, for our good. We're called back into these stages of growth,
Yeah.
sharpening, closer to Godness, whatever
Yeah.
you want to call it. Yeah. And you mentioned tools and resources, and yes, whatever you can get your hands on, try to. I want to offer one tool that I think is like the best tool
Yes.
that's free.
Mm.
It's a hard one to use. It's a hard one to practice. It's transference is the idea that every person you come across who either sparks a bit of joy or excitement, sometimes you meet someone, you're like, I fuck with her. She's awesome.
Yeah.
That's because you're seeing yourself reflected in that human. And the
Yeah.
same goes for when they act up and you're like, I just can't. Now that one I can do. Now everybody's invited but her or whatever, right? It's like there's something in her that is also either was within you and you squashed it and you don't want to see it again, or it's
Mm.
you. And so because we're talking about evolution, there's these people are opportunities for your evolution. When you are moved by another human, that is an opportunity to do some work and ask yourself, is this reminding me of someone in my life who's hurt me? Is this reminding me of
Mm.
a part of myself I've yet to accept? Is this
Mm.
whatever, right? And there's a lot of work that we can do just in that space. So using
Mm.
people as reflections is a free resource and ways to shift into
Yes.
your own
I love
evolution. Yeah.
that. I love that so much. And relationships is such a core and a key to our existence. And so they'll always be there. And so it's always available to you as a resource to be able to step full body into your experience. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. So we are coming up near the end of our conversation, which has been so beautiful already.
Mm-hmm.
And there was so much goodness wrapped into this entire conversation. But I do want to give you an opportunity to share with someone who is in like the thick of their grief and experiencing just like what feels like for them in this moment the most grief they've ever experienced, or the grief that they may be experiencing for the first time. What is something that you would offer to them as they occupy the space of existence and move towards another stage of existence, and what would you offer to them?
I would first screen and ask about suicidality, like how hard is it? And are you considering ending your life? Because grief can get that deep. And if the answer is yes, I'm considering ending my life, and yes, I have a plan, I would say to call 988 for support, or your therapist, or your whatever support system you have, people who can show up for you. That's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is the field is advancing, and by using that word, what I mean is we're going back into indigenous practices and finding them really powerful. It's that we're finding that the body needs support when we're going through these things too, significant
Mm-hmm.
support. And so sometimes our grief can be confused. I know for me, it was confused. I was living in a house that had mold in it,
Mm-hmm.
and that was it conflated the issue. It's like, what's actually going on here, right? So I feel like I have to say that to people now, like, check in with your body,
Mm.
see a medical professional, because some of what you might be experiencing might not have to do with what's actually happening. Your body might be out of balance and need
Wow.
support. And maybe you're not living in mold, but if you live anywhere in the United States, you're exposed to toxins, heavy metals, there's shit in our water. Like, there may
Mm.
that is contributing to the difficult experience you're having. And I feel like we miss that
Yeah.
a lot. And just in
Yeah.
general, we only go to the doctor when we're sick. Like, our body's changing every day. You need adjustments every day.
Mm.
So I'll say that. And then, like you said, remembering that you're in this process for a reason, asking yourself, do I want to go back? If the answer is yes, then do it. If the
Yeah.
answer is no, what you need to do. And I live by this. It's written on my wall. Just be brave with your life. We got one to
Mm.
live, get after it and understand that it's our life is a purification process.
Yeah.
Lean
Yeah.
into removing the impurities and the weight. We're here to experience joy, love. We need pain to experience the alternative
Yeah.
of it. So we're here to
Yeah.
just be to have a full
Yeah.
experience. Yeah, and to
Yeah.
fly high.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
I
are my
love that. I love that so much. I would just piggyback on those same sentiments. And I think I would just offer to be in the experience. I always say, like, if you're gonna be sad, be sad. If you're gonna be happy, be happy. It's so multi-layered where we have these experiences where we experience anger, or we experience an emotion that is more complex or a little bit more difficult to hold or to be with. And instead of just holding and being with it, we then pile it with shame. And then we pile it with guilt. And then we pile it with regret. And then now we're not even experiencing the emotion itself anymore. We're experiencing like residuals from the experience itself. And so I always just encourage people to be with the experience and seek the support that you need while you be with whatever the experience is. And so that's a lot like acceptance, but sometimes it's not even in the form of acceptance, right? Like, if you're experiencing anger, but then you're also experiencing like a feeling of the guilt, right? This piled layer of the anger itself, be with that
yeah.
thing, and be with that thing with grace and compassion for yourself. We offer so much grace and compassion and empathy to others, but being softer with yourself, gentler with yourself, and recognizing that a lot of what we are currently experiencing are very compacted experiences that, like you mentioned, have to do with the fact that we live in the United States, that there are things that are happening to us that are outside of our control, programming that we didn't opt into but were subjected to, that there are probably experiences that you went through as a child that may have truly affected and impacted the way that you show up as an adult, and
Yep.
being gracious with yourself in that process and allowing yourself to be who you are today, because who you are today is beautiful. Who you are today is worthy of love. Who you are today is already there. Just being in a space of being able to accept who you are today, because who you desire to be needs you to be who you are today
Yep.
first. So be who you are today, and you'll make your way to who you desire to be. But that's what I would offer, from a space of just love and hugs, and so many hugs, because I know it's
It's
hard. It's so
hard,
fucking
hard.
hard.
Yeah.
And
But I
so
think
I would also offer hugs.
that's a great tip. Those are great tips, both of them. Yeah. Be with your emotions. If you don't know how to be with your emotions, there are therapists who can help you with somatic practices to feel and allow the experience. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Our emotions are our
yeah,
guides. Use them. Don't shut.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being with me today and just diving deep into this conversation and just offering so much wisdom and insight to everyone that's going to listen, and to me, and giving me a safe space to express and to also receive.
Yeah.
It's always an honor, always an
Always.
honor.
Same and a
Um,
pleasure.
yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely. Thank you
Okay.
so
I'll
much
see you
love,
soon.
and I'll see you so
That's
soon.
right. Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.